Sister Nida, please start.
Okay. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulin Amin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain amma ba'd. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh everyone. Welcome to the 14th session of Islamic Personality Development, Part 2 of Self-Confidence. Alhamdulillah, today we are getting another chance to learn deeply about the topic self-confidence, inshallah. So I would like to call Sister Zeba Nikat for introductory speech. Over to you, Sister Zeba.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Am I audible and clear?
Yes, Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khair. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulil Amin. Wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajmain amma ba'd. I would like to welcome all of my respected brothers and sisters to another session of Islamic Personality Development on self-confidence. As in the last session, we have seen the religious aspect of it. Today, let's see it through the lens of psychology, inshallah. Self-confidence, which is one of the most important psychological factors that play a big role in the individual's self-management, determines the form of his relationship with the other, and contributes to the individual's achievement of his goals and aspirations. This is at the level of the individual. However, at the level of the Ummah, the achievement of great hopes, victory over enemies, and raising the flag of faith will not stand except on the shoulders of people who have confidence in the Lord and then confidence in themselves. So may Allah recognize our efforts and guide us in strengthening our religion so that we can feel confident in our faith as Muslims. May Allah lead us and provide us success in this life and the next. Ameen. So purify your intentions before to the session and turn off your video and microphone as well as your social media notifications to avoid being distracted. Please have your eyes, ears, and heart wide open, as well as your notebook and pen handy. So without further ado, I would like to call Brother Wafi. Over to you, Brother Wafi. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Am I audible?
Wa alaikum assalam wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah wa rahmatullah.
Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salamu ala rasulihil amin wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in amma ba'd. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wa ahlul 'uqdatan min lisani yafqahu qawli. قال الله تعالى في القرآن الكريم بعد أقول أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ومن أحسن قولا ممن دعا إلى الله وعمل صالحا وقال إنني من المسلمين صدق الله العلي العظيم. We are continuing with the topic we were discussing in the last session. Does anyone remember what the topic of the session was? Anyone remember what the topic of the session was? Absolutely, it was on self-confidence. We covered the importance of having pride in our heart being Muslims, why we need to stand up and walk with our shoulders straight, being Muslims. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made us Muslims, and that in of itself is a reason why we must be proud of ourselves, why we must not have inferiority complex, why we must be able to stand up and say strongly that I'm a Muslim and I don't care what other people say, and I won't compromise on my principles to stand with the liberal principles. I won't compromise my ideals so that I can satisfy the society. So we discussed the religious, theological, or jurisprudential aspect of this particular topic. Now today we are going to be covering its psychological aspect, and we are going to be discussing it from multiple dimensions. Now let me begin the session by asking a very, very simple question. Do you have stage fear? Do you have stage fear? Imagine that there's a function in your college and there are about 700 or 1,000 people, and suddenly, like you didn't even know it, you were directly called to give the the inaugural speech, or not the inaugural speech, but the welcome speech. If you were called to do the welcome speech while you were completely unprepared, would you be able to do it? Say yes or no. Would you be able to do it? Say yes or no. Now, the topic of stage fear is actually very much directly connected with the issue of self-confidence. Now, what is self-confidence? Like, we need to have a proper definition of what self-confidence is. Now, self-confidence is one of the most important psychological factors that play a big role in the individual's self-management, determines the form of his relationship with the other, and contributes to the individual's employment of his energies and the achievement of his goals and aspirations. So this is a very lexical definition. It's a very lexical definition. And from this, we can clearly understand that if you need to succeed in life, you got to have self-confidence. Now, a lot of people misconstrue, they misunderstand the difference between self-confidence and egotism. Self-confidence, is that a positive concept or a negative concept? Is that a positive concept or is that a negative concept? Absolutely, it's a positive concept. It's very good. You need to have self-confidence. But what about egotism? Is that a positive concept or a negative concept? Egotism is actually a negative concept. It is kibr, being extremely proud of oneself and one's own accomplishments. A lot of people misconstrue between this. And this can really be seen in a lot of youth who are following the Meninist movement. How many of you have heard about feminist movement? Say yes in the chat. How many of you have heard about the feminist movement? Say yes in the chat. Okay, so a lot of us know feminism, what feminism stands for. And incidentally, let me ask another question. Do you support feminism or oppose feminism? If you support feminism, say S in the chat. If you oppose feminism, say O in the chat. So we have got a lot of O, and I think we have got some yes as well. All right. Now, the other question is, how many of you have heard about Meninism? How many of you have heard about Meninism? Now, Meninism is basically the counter movement towards feminism. The reason why feminist movements and red pill movements arose, especially in the European countries, is because of fourth wave or fifth wave feminism. Now, Meninism, just like feminism, it is having a lot of problems. Just like we oppose feminism, we clearly state that we oppose Meninism as well. Meninism is extremely toxic. Rather than promoting noble masculinity, these guys promote toxic masculinity. Now, the reason why I brought this topic into picture is because a lot of the teenage youth, they follow a lot of these celebrities on YouTube, on Instagram, on a lot of different social media platforms, and they basically misunderstand between what self-confidence is and what egotism is. For them, to be self-confidence means that you got to be a macho man, right? You got to be this alpha male. How many of you have heard about the word alpha male? Alpha male. Now, there are positive aspects to this concept, but very sadly, it has been toxified a lot. They say that to be a masculine man, you got to punch other guys. You should not cry. And a lot of these toxic traits that really doesn't make sense. That really doesn't make sense. They say that if you got to, show that you're a masculine man, you got to have sexual relationships with as much women as possible. And such toxic narratives are being spread into the youth. And it's a very, very sad reality. It's a very, very sad reality. So we should not misconstrue or misunderstand between self-confidence and egotism. Is that clear? If it is clear, say yes in the chat. If it is clear, say yes in the chat. Very good. Okay, now we get into the question that I asked earlier. It was about your ability to go onto a stage and then speak without fear. Your ability of public speaking and communication skill is directly proportional to your confidence. Agreed or disagreed? Only a person who has a lot of self-confidence can go onto that stage and speak with candor and courage. Only a person with self-confidence will be able to do that. Now, let me ask you another question. How many of you would like to develop your communication skills? How many of you would like to develop your communication skills? So we clearly see a correlation here, right? We clearly see a correlation here. A correlation between communication skill and confidence. A correlation between public speaking skill and confidence. So from a correlational and reciprocal perspective, one way to improve your confidence is to improve your communication skills. It is to improve your communication skills. All right. So the best way, one of the best ways to improve your confidence is to what? To improve your communication skills. Understand this very, very clearly. Understand this very, very clearly. And I've seen this very clearly in my counseling cases. Now, the advantage that I have when it comes to counseling is that I don't just work as a counselor, but I also work as a language instructor. I'm a TESOL certified instructor that, once worked for a UK-based institute. So I used to train people for communication. And at the same time, on the other side, I used to give people counseling. Now, when teenagers come with, self-confidence problems, inferiority complexes, and all these things, like one thing that I try to do was I try to train them for their public speaking and communication skill. And I very clearly saw that the more they spoke, the more they raised their voice, the more they stood up with their shoulders straight, their self-confidence increased. So that is why we clearly see a correlation, a direct proportional relationship. Now, the other question I would like to ask you is how to develop communication skill. How to develop communication skill. Okay, we have got multiple suggestions here. Speaking, listening, practicing, reading, okay. Public relations, okay, socializing, LSRW methodology, which is a concept in psycholinguistics, thinking in the language. All right. So that's an advanced step. Audio, speaking, reading. All right. Okay, so there are multiple ways of developing your communication skill. But the question I would like to ask you is this, is that a one-step methodology? Imagine that you are having a headache, you go to the pharmacy and you take a pill and your headache is gone. Is that how it happens with regards to communication skill? If you just want to improve your communication skill, that you just take this 10-day course. If you take this 5-day course, you're going to have an absolutely amazing, spoken English capacity. Like we see a lot of these courses that are widely available. And a funny thing was, I was just traveling by the bike and I suddenly saw a huge board saying, learn public speaking and improve your communication skill. And I think it was a 5-day or 10-day course. I was just riding the bike and I just saw the poster and suddenly I stopped because there was a clear grammatical mistake in the way they basically put the poster. Like there were spelling mistakes, subhanAllah. So it's ironic. And understand that improving communication skill is not just a one-day process. All right. It's not like, taking one pill in and then, improving yourself. It doesn't happen like that. And looking back into my life, I struggled a lot with regards to communication skill. If time allows, I'll try to share a small snippet of that story, inshallah. So one way to improve your communication skill is to use all the opportunities that come across your path without fear of failure. All right, without fear of failure. There's going to be a lot of elocution competitions. There's going to be opportunities that will come across your way. For example, speaking in your community or taking certain tasks in your community, certain responsibilities in which you will need to speak up. Or maybe like these are competitions, like you hear of different competitions happening in different places. If you see such opportunities, take it up without fear. And this really, really helped me a lot. Now, is it possible for you to win, just by going to one competition without having the proper skill? Is it possible for you to win? Absolutely not. It's not possible for you to win. You will fail a lot and you need to experience failure so that you can win. So when you fail in a lot of competitions, what happens usually? Do you get a lot of appreciation or a lot of insults? Oh man, a lot of insults. I can say this from my experience. Like like it's a very specific thing with regards to South Indians. I don't know a lot about North Indians, but South Indians, especially in Kerala, there is a particular word. All right, I'll tell the word and I'll translate it. It's called as talartal. Does anyone know what the meaning of that word is? Talartal. What is the meaning of that word? What is the meaning of that word? Man, we Malayalis really love to do it. We really love to do it. Like it's psychotic and sadistic. I mean, you feeling that kind of happiness by degrading another person, by depreciating and demotivating another person, right? Like I've seen this a lot. I think it's genetic, right? I think it's genetic. So, subhanallah. I do specifically remember, taking a session for people from different nationalities. So there were Arabs, there were Americans, there were people from UK, there were Indians and different people. Now, after the session, a lot of people would come and say, MashaAllah, like you have done a wonderful job. Barakallah feek, Allahumma barik. The Arabs would come and say, their things. The people from the Caucasians, the Westerners, they would come like, you have done a fantastic job, etc. Usually, South Indians don't come. All right. Usually, South Indians don't come. But if they are coming, like I know why they're coming. All right. They would come and they would say, man, Wafi, that was good. All right. That was good. And then they would say, but, and then they would give a long list of things that you need to improve on. All right. They'll give a lot of things you need to improve on. Subhanallah, like it's very sad and funny at the same time. It's very sad and funny at the same time. And it's very sadistic. It's very sadistic. You getting that kind of pleasure or satisfaction by seeing another person go down. I do remember, I was sitting in the library of my college and I was, overhearing a conversation that was happening in the other table. Now, one person came and he asked, his friend, how do I look? How does my dress look? All right. Like, is my dressing good? Like, I think he bought a new dress or something. So he was just asking his friend. Now, I do clearly remember the Malayalam statement. All right. I do clearly remember the Malayalam statement. It was so funny. It was so funny. I laughed a lot. So I will say the Malayalam statement and I will translate it for you so that doesn't lose its punch. All right. The guy responded by saying, Dressu valare nannayittundu, pakshe mogam poi. Subhanallah, what does that mean? What does that mean? Like, he's basically saying, okay, your dress really looks good, man. Like, it's amazing. But your face, it looks really ugly, bro. Like, it looks really ugly. Go do plastic surgery. All right. Subhanallah. Like, why will people do that? Like, why do people do that? Like, it's I don't understand it. Like, that it's going to hurt the other person, then why do you consciously do it? A lot of the people have that. Like, when you see another person, you first try to say something negative. Imagine that you saw your friend after long years. The first thing you say, oh man, you have grown fat. Like, you will say something just so that you can demotivate the other person. It's something that is really wrong. It's something that is really wrong. And as Muslims, we should never have that characteristic. As Muslims, we should never, ever have that characteristics. All right, now coming back to the topic, when you fail, there are obviously going to be people who will oppose you, who will insult you, who will shame you publicly, But what I need you to understand is that you should use this insult as a fuel. You should use this insult as a fuel. Now, looking back into my life, I was really bad in English. You wouldn't believe. I was rejected admission from an institution because I couldn't speak English. And I do very clearly remember what the coordinator of admissions, she was sitting on the table, what she said to me, and it really hurt me. It really, really hurt me. It was very insultful. And I had two choices. I could either, become depressed and say, nothing is going to work out. I can never learn this language. I will never be able to do that. But then that insult was one of the reasons why I developed in certain ways. And there were a lot of lessons that life taught me. And one of the most important lessons was that you should never, ever give up. All the insults that are thrown at you, you should use it as a fuel. And I've been insulted a lot, left and right. But Akhiran, like at last, when I look back, I feel a lot happy, right? I feel really, really happy at how the things connected. Now, there were different situations in my life in which I had to make certain choices. But if I made the wrong choices by accepting those insults, by becoming depressed because of the opposition, I would not have reached where I have reached right now, bi'idhnillah, with the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So I don't want to go into my story. It's a personal story. So what I will do is, I've started a blog. I will tell the coordinators to post the story in the group so that you will all benefit from it, inshallah. So what you need to understand is failures are the stepping stones to success. So never, ever be demotivated by the insults that you hear. All right. So you have to fail a lot. Failing a lot is part of succeeding. Now, one of the best options you have at the moment is to make use of COJ Ummah discussion platform. How many of you have taken part in the COJ Ummah? At least once. Say yes in the chat. At least once. And the platform, it's amazing. It's amazing. You're having amazing discussions, beautiful insights, beautiful thoughts, and it's all in the English language. It's all in the English language. So the more you participate in the COJ group, in the discussion, in audio or video or text, the more you engage in it, you will see a lot of improvement in yourself. You will see a lot of improvement in yourself. And let me tell you this, the people who opposed you and the people who insulted you, after many years, they will look at you. They will look at you. And you'll be able to see that sense of regret in their eyes for having said what they said to you, And I've clearly experienced this in my life. I've actually gone back to the same school. I actually have gone back to the same school, and I have stood outside the principal's office wanting to enter it and talk to him directly. But then, I did not make that step. I returned. But inshallah, maybe if I return to Kerala, I'll make sure to do it. Because right now, when I look back into my life, it feels like all the dots are connecting. So even if you're in a situation in which you feel completely confused, you feel that it's impossible for you to develop, you feel that it's impossible for you to advance in life, you feel really tight in your heart, and you feel that every door is closed, understand that that is how life is supposed to be. And the more you go ahead in life, you will see all these dots connecting. Inshallah. The other kind of fear that people have with regards to not having enough self-confidence is the fear of people. It's the fear of people thinking, what will people say? Subhanallah. Like, this is a huge problem. It's a huge problem. Fear of the people is extremely devastating to a person's development. Extremely devastating. There are people who spend hours and hours in front of the mirror doing makeup so that they can satisfy other people. Now, being a psychologist, let me tell you another fact. 99% of the people really don't care about you. All right? I know it sounds a bit negative, but understand what I'm saying. 99% of the people really don't care how you look, how you talk, and how you walk. All right? You're just going to be one small second unit in their memory, and they will forget about you. While you, very idiotically, you spent and wasted a lot of money and a lot of hours from your life so that you can appear, with a really good appearance, so that other people can have a positive view about you. While other people really don't care, man. Other people really don't care. Subhanallah. And there's actually a very good concept in psychology. It's not only in psychology, it's also present in sociology. It's about how human beings see themselves. And in all our stories, who is the hero? Who is the hero in all our stories? All the visualizations we have in our minds, who is the hero? We are the hero. Ourselves, we center ourselves, and we think that the world revolves around ourselves. Does the world revolve around ourselves? Absolutely no. So clearly understand this. 99% of the people really don't care how you look, how you talk, and how you walk. So stop wasting your time trying to satisfy other people, trying to appease other people. Subhanallah. Look back into your life and think about how many opportunities you missed due to the fear of what other people would say, what other people would think about you, how other people would feel about you. There were a lot of opportunities for you to go, but you stood back because of this particular fear. There was that speaking competition which you could have really mastered and really won, but you stood back because you feared of what other people would say. You feared what other people would say. You will never experience true independence until you get rid of the fear of what other people think. Sarahatan, very honestly, let me tell you this. Let me tell you this. You will never be free. You will always be in the jail. You will always be shackled. You will always be chained as long as you think about what other people will think. All right? And also understand that you will never be able to satisfy everyone. You will never, ever be able to satisfy everyone. Let me ask you this. Who was the person who had the best character, the best appearance, and the best personality? Who was it? Who was it? The Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Was he able to satisfy everyone? Was he able to satisfy everyone? No, he had a lot of enemies who even tried to kill him. So stop deluding yourself with the mission or the endeavor of wanting to satisfy everyone. You will never be able to do it. You will never be able to do it. Most people live life trying to please other people, trying to earn their love and try to satisfy their whims and fancies and desires in the pursuit of living up to the toxic expectations of other people and the society. They completely forget to live for themselves. They completely forget to live for themselves. This will in the end lead to intense regret and depression. Because honestly, these people are going to forget you. These people are going to forget you tomorrow or day after tomorrow or even today or even in the next hour. They won't even remember you. They won't even remember you. We all need to understand that it's absolutely impossible to make all people happy. Even the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. When I say sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what are you supposed to say? What are you supposed to say? Sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So make sure you say it. All right, make sure you say it. A lot of ajr you can gain by that. So even the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who had the best personality, had critics, he had haters. He had haters. So what makes you think that you will be able to make everyone happy? Even the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam had enemies and critics and haters. So who do you think you are? Who do you think you are to think that you can satisfy everyone? So step down from that egotistic step or pedestal that you have gotten into and understand that the world doesn't revolve around yourself, and 99% of the people really don't care about your appearance. 99% of the people really don't care about your appearance. And stop deluding and destroying yourself in this mission of wanting to appease everyone. Now, let me ask you another question. Do you find it hard to say no to other people and instead readily say yes? Do you find it hard to say no? And this is also an issue with, that is directly connected to self-confidence. A person who is really having a lot of self-confidence will have a lot of assertiveness in his life. So write down this word, assertiveness. You got to be assertive in life. You got to be assertive in life. Now, being assertive in life doesn't mean you need to be rude to other people. All right. There's a way of saying no. There's a way of saying no. Imagine that a friend came to you and he or she asked you for some help and you find it completely impossible to do it. Right. So how are you supposed to respond? All right. There are always two choices. You could either say yes, and you take up, the activity or the help that was proposed by your friend, even though you find it really hard. So is it, are you supposed to do that? Are you supposed to take upon yourself things you will never be able to do and you destroy yourself in the process? Absolutely not. Islam doesn't tell you to do it. Islam doesn't tell you to do it. Now, there's another concept of altruism, which is a very holy concept in which you self-sacrifice for the sake of other people. Okay, that's a different topic. But here, you are basically being exploited, my friend. You're basically being exploited. And a lot of these people, they know an unassertive person, a non-assertive person, and they will always come to you asking for help if you don't put boundaries. If you don't put boundaries, nobody will respect you if you don't respect yourself. Understand this very clearly. Understand this very clearly. You might be saying yes to them so that they will respect you, so that they will love you, so that they will remain in your friendship. That is not what is happening. They will have least respect for your time, for your sacrifice, and everything that you do for them. They won't value it. They won't value it. So understand how to maintain this boundary. Now, saying no is the second choice, but the way you say no is also very, very important. All right. You could either say to them, no, I'm not going to do it. You're trying to exploit me. You're trying to abuse me. Get out of here. Get the hell out of here. All right. You could say in that manner. Do you think it's going to be positive or negative? It's going to be positive or negative? It's going to be really negative. Your friend will turn into your enemy. And the greatest enemies were once the greatest friends. Understand this very clearly too. All right. So you don't want to make enemies. You don't want to make enemies. So the way you say it should be very constructive. Let me give you a psychological technique to say it. First, you should start by telling them how much you want to do it. All right, very politely. All right, very politely. You tell them, man, I really wish I could help you. But at the moment, I've got a lot of things in my hand and I can't do it. I'm really sorry. Also apologize and also say sorry. It's a very good thing. Saying sorry and saying, apologizing, it's a very beautiful thing. It's a very polite thing to do. It's a very polite thing to do. So the way you say no is also very, very important. Now, this is a book that I would highly recommend. And the book is titled, Don't Say Yes When You Want to Say No, Making Life Right When It Feels All Wrong. It was written by Dr. Herbert Fenster-Chaim and his wife, Jean Baer. So it's a really good book. But before reading this book, let me give you another heads up. The book was actually written by, secular psychologists, the liberal psychologists. So these people, they support a lot of things that we should not be supporting as Muslims. So there's a specific chapter in the book in which the author talks about homosexuality and why they need to come out, being proud of their identity. So that aspect, be very, very careful when reading that aspect. But other than that, the book is really good and I would highly, highly recommend it. And also, I would give you a general advice for all the people who read psychology books. How many of you read self-help psychology books? How many of you read self-help psychology books? Now, reading them, like you'll benefit a lot. I can say that you will benefit a lot. It has a lot of beautiful, wonderful content. For example, Atomic Habits. Now, that's a book that I would highly recommend. But at the same time, most of the self-help books are not written by Muslims, and therefore they're working from a completely different paradigm to you. They're working from a completely different epistemological, ontological, and normative paradigm. All right. So be very cautious when you read such books. Be very cautious when you read such books. Don't accept everything you read. All right. Be a bit more critical. Be a bit more analytical. All right. Be a bit more analytical. And have an assertive personality. All right. Be kind. All right. Be kind and offer help. Be kind and offer help. Let me go back to the earlier example. When a person comes to you, naturally, should you be helping them or should you not be helping them? Should you be helping them or should you not be helping them? You should be helping them. That is the natural way and the normal way how a Muslim should behave. And this should not be superficial. It should be very genuine. It should be very sincere. And that's why, like when you tell them, I really want to do it, you're basically telling them the truth. You're not lying because you're a Muslim. You're very genuine and you're very sincere, regardless of who they are, what their background is, what their religion is, whether they're Hindu, Christian, Buddhist, Pathist, atheist, monotheist, pantheist, or atheist, are agnostic. You represent yourself and you provide the help. But if there are situations where you're not able to, you very sincerely say that I want to help you, but I can't at the moment. All right. So be kind and often help. But at the same time, don't be a human carpet for people to trample on. Don't be a human carpet without any boundaries. Without any boundaries, learn to say no when the situation calls for it. When the situation calls for it, don't set yourself on fire to keep someone warm. Don't do that. There are a lot of people who do that. If you do that, they're not going to respect you. You will think that they will love you, but they won't love you, my friends. They won't love you. And there's a difference between self-sacrifice for greater good and self-destruction for social conformity. All right, self-destruction for the social conformity. And that's where a lot of people fail. They basically destroy themselves for the sake of social conformity. A lot of people fall into liberalism so that they can satisfy the standards of the society. And in the process, they completely destroy themselves. So you got to be able to say no, my dear brothers and sisters. You got to be able to say no. If a person calls you for the DJ party, you got to be able to say no. An unassertive person unassertive person who does not have self-confidence will not be able to say no. They'll think in their minds, okay, if I say no, what are they going to think? They're going to think that I'm an extremist. If I wear a hijab, they're going to have negative opinions about me. If I say that I don't want to go with you to the movie theater to watch that vulgar movie, they will think bad about me. Subhanallah, you're a Muslim, man. You're a Muslim. So have that self-confidence and know that the stance that you're taking, it's the stance that is supported by the Lord of the words, the Lord of the worlds. So in the process of satisfying other people, would you disobey your Creator? La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Allah al-musta'an. So live for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and only think about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will think about you. So self-esteem and self-confidence, it's really mandatory for success, not only in the dunya, but also in the akhirah. If you got to stand true to the deen, you got to have self-confidence. That is why in a hadith, the Prophet ﷺ said, Al-mu'min al-qawi afdal min mu'min al-da'if. That a strong believer is better than a weak believer. A strong believer is far better than a weak believer. And one of the ways to become strong mentally is to become strong physically. It's to become strong physically. How many of you go to the gym? Okay, no need to go to the gym. Okay, how many of you exercise? All right, how many of you exercise? Whether it's from the home or anywhere. How many of you exercise? And I can really tell you, the more your musculature builds, the more your physical strength increases, your mental health will also increase. There are a lot of studies in psychology that clearly proves this. That's why a lot of the masculine mentors or masculinity mentors now, they highly recommend for teenagers to start going to the gym. All right, it will correct your posture rather than walking very humbly. All right, humbly is not the word to use here. Some people think that to be humble and have humility, they got to walk by keeping their head down and walking like they're having some paralysis in their spinal cord. All right, walking like a dead chicken. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. You're a man, so walk like a man. All right, walk like a man, talk like a man, have that dignity of being a Muslim man. All right, have that dignity of being a Muslim man. All right, being humble doesn't mean that you become this human carpet, you become this punching board where everyone can punch you and you won't respond back. No, man. If a person punches you, you should make sure that he doesn't punch you again. All right, that is part of noble masculinity. So this huge debate we have here today between feminism and minism, it has led to the spread of toxic masculinity. So we got to really understand what noble masculinity is. You got to really understand what clear self-esteem is. You got to distinguish it between self-confidence and egotism. The impact of low self-confidence can actually be quite debilitating and can result in extreme shyness, communication, difficulties, and social anxiety. This is where we come to the second concept. It's called as haya. And this is where we differentiate between shyness and shamefulness. All right. Shameful, is that a negative concept or a positive concept? Negative concept or a positive concept? It's a positive concept. Shamefulness is a positive concept. You got to be shameful, man. Shamelessness is a negative concept. You got to have haya. Both men and women need to have haya. But does having haya mean you're very shy? If a person comes to talk to you, like you shy away and you run away. If guests come into your home to talk to you, like you basically shut down yourself in the room and play whatever your video game or something. All right, being extremely introverted. That is not what having haya means. All right, that is not what having haya means. The Sahaba had haya. They were the best examples for haya. The Prophet ﷺ had the best haya. But when in the time of jihad, in the time of war, he used to be at the front. When dealing with people, he used to be at the front. When the society had certain problems and you got to engage and interfere and intervene, he was at the front. So stop, misconstruing and misunderstanding the difference between haya and, this complete introversive shyness. And also, one of the best ways to have good self-confidence is to keep the promises you make to yourself. Let me ask you this question. Would you trust a person who does not keep promises to himself? Imagine that he made a promise to you and he does not keep it. Would you respect him or her? Absolutely no. So how do you expect you to respect yourself if you don't keep the promises you make to yourself? Subhanallah. So the best way to improve yourself or to improve your self-confidence is to keep the promises you make to yourself. If you tell yourself that you're going to wake up for tahajjud tomorrow, and when the alarm rings and you tell yourself, I'll do it tomorrow, right? You're basically decreasing your self-confidence. You're basically decreasing the respect you have for yourself. You don't even value yourself so much, at least like in the manner that you want to wake up for tahajjud. If you really valued yourself, if you really valued your future in the dunya and the akhirah, you would really wake up. You would wake up with energy. All right. So when you don't have self-respect, you won't have self-confidence. So one of the best ways to maintain self-respect is to keep the promises you make to yourself. So when you don't have self-confidence, you won't have self-esteem, and will really directly impact your life. So work hard to prove to yourself that you are a person respecting. You won't respect yourself as long as you continue those negative behaviors, as long as you continue taking in drugs, as long as you continue being addicted to watching pornography, or all this bad filth that you're engaging in. Subhanallah, you won't have an ounce of self-respect. And if a person does not have an ounce of self-respect, he will have no haya, and he will have no self-esteem, and he will have no self-confidence. He'll have no self-confidence. And there is no such thing as failure in the dunya. All right. It all depends upon the frame of reference. In the akhirah, yes, we have failure, real failure. But in the dunya, understand that a lot of these failures are temporary. All setbacks actually teach you a lot of important lessons. Failures are the stepping stones to success. And behind every success, there's a lot of failures. There's a lot of failures. When we look into the history of Thomas Alva Edison. How many of you know Thomas Alva Edison? Say yes in the chat. How many of you know Thomas Alva Edison? When he discovered the light bulb, did he discover it within one experiment? Within one experiment? Absolutely no. Like, he did thousands of experiments and he failed all of them. And finally he got it. Okay, there's another history too. I don't want to go into that tangent, but I actually don't believe that Thomas Alva Edison, okay, I don't want to talk about it now. Like it's another topic. But for the people who would like to research more on it, research more on Nikola Tesla and Thomas Alva Edison. It's a very interesting topic. It's a very, very interesting topic. Subhanallah. Okay, and rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whenever you have failures, rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. All right, in chapter number 11, verse number 88, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and my success cannot come from any source besides God. You got to be able to say that to yourself. You got to be able to say that, tawakkaltu ala Allah, hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakeel. I rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I don't care about anyone else. My success only comes from who? From who? Does it come from the principal of your college? Does it come from your parents? Does it come from your friends, your colleagues? Absolutely no. It comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you rely upon Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you will have no fear whatsoever. You'll have no fear whatsoever. You'll be able to go to the principal's office and you will be able to talk to him directly without having that sense of fear in your heart, because you don't need to fear them. You don't need to fear them. You don't need to fear the authority. You don't need to fear anyone on this planet. If you fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, a man who makes sujood, who prostrates to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, doesn't need to prostrate to any of the creation. A man who bows down to the Creator that will never need to bow down to the creation. Understand this very, very clearly. And now we have very few minutes left, so I'm going to cover a few more important things and we'll end inshallah. One way to increase your self-confidence is to maintain your posture. Let's go back to the earlier example that I was saying with regards to humility. Having humility doesn't mean like you walk like you're having tetraplegia or paraplegia, or a cancer in your spine or something, when you're not able to stand straight. Don't do that. Don't do that. All right. If you want to have self-confidence, stand straight and maintain your posture first of all. And it has direct effect on your self-confidence. Direct effect on your self-confidence. Dr. Jordan Peterson, in his 12 rules of life, one of the first rules he gives is to stand up straight and maintain your posture. While at the same time, let me give the disclaimer that I stand against Dr. Jordan Peterson's values and a lot of his arguments that he has been putting forth recently with regards to Israel and Zionism and his relationship with Ben Shapiro and him joining Y+. Anyway, so what I'm trying to say is, if you want to have good self-confidence, don't slouch in your posture. Stand straight up like a man. Stand straight up and stop talking to yourself really negatively. A lot of people have this negative talk. The moment they wake up, they tell to themselves that I'm a failure. I'm a complete failure. I've achieved nothing in my life. I've achieved nothing in my life. When they look into the mirror, they tell to themselves, I'm really ugly. I don't look good. I have a lot of these pimples. I have a lot of these cut off marks on my face. And they spend hours and hours in front of the mirror. Subhanallah. So don't talk to yourself negatively. Would you talk negatively to the people who you really love? Would you talk to them in that way, in a really negative manner? No, absolutely no. So at least value yourself the same way you value the people you love. Don't tell yourself that you're good for nothing. Don't tell yourself that nobody loves you. Don't tell to yourself that you're a failure. Don't tell to yourself that you will never reach anywhere in life. And negative self-talk is extremely, extremely destructive. And it's related to the levels of consciousness, subconscious mind and the conscious mind. Subconscious mind will actually imbibe the statements that you keep on doing dhikr upon. You keep on doing dhikr upon. You keep on repeating and recurringly saying, subhanallah. All right. If you do that, you will start becoming extremely ultra pessimistic and will start to see life only in a very, very negative light. Only in a very, very negative light. So stop it. Stop it. Don't think about any other people. Don't think about the society. Don't think about any person. Only think about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Focus on Allah and nothing else matters. Focus on Allah and nothing else matters. When you reach the stage where in which you think of only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and nothing else, you will be completely free of any fear of this world. You will have nothing to fear. You will not fear other people. You will not fear poverty or loss of job. You will not fear the government. You will not fear the government. The only thing that will guide your thoughts and behavior is your fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That is exactly what we see in the great scholars of Salaf al-Salihin. In Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal, when Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal was actually jailed, when he was fighting with the Mu'tazila, was he extremely fearful? Did he give in? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Imam Ahmad ibn Hanbal actually stood his ground. He stood his ground while the entire power structure was opposing him. When the entire power structure was opposing him, subhanAllah. That is the amount of strength and courage and confidence and canter we should have. But sadly, our youth and our society, our men and our women, we have become spineless and spunkless. We have lost the confidence and courage to be able to say no when an un-Islamic opportunity comes up. Subhanallah. We got to look back into our life and we got to introspect and we got to contemplate. If you need to build a good Islamic personality, it is impossible by having low self-confidence. All right. So focus on improving your self-confidence and understand that you're only confined by the walls you build yourself. All right. You're only confined by the walls you build yourself. All the shackles that you have, it's in your mind. It's in your mind. The thought that comes into your mind that constantly says that, okay, this person is thinking bad of you. That person is not going to love you. Sorry. That person is not going to respect you. That is your mind. Shaitan is doing waswas in your mind. So say, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, and understand that this is just a shackle that you created yourself, that your nafs created, and then break these shackles and come out by standing strongly with Islamic principles, by standing strongly with the Sharia. When I say come out of your confined walls, I'm not talking in a feministic or LGBTQ activist sense, when these feminists say, okay, come out of your shackles, you don't need hijab. Come out of your shackles, you don't need to, go to pray. Like it's pre-modern. It's out of fashion. That is not what I mean. When I say you got to come out of the walls that you built yourself, you got to come out of all these inferiority complexes and these insecure feelings and focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala by saying very strongly to your heart, Tawakkaltu ala Allah, hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. Hasbunallahu wa ni'mal wakil. When you do that, you will have strong focus on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Your spirituality will increase. And at the same time, you will focus a lot more on your ibadah. If you do that, in tansurullaha yansurukum wa yuthabbit aqdamakum. If you help Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah will help you and make your ground stronger. You'll be able to stand firm. And when you're able to stand firm, that is the best symbol of having self-confidence. And with that, we conclude the session today. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless us all with the ability to focus in salah and experience its sweetness. And inshallah, with regards to learning English, just try to make use of COJ as much as possible. All right. A lot of people who stay in the COJ group 5 years and 10 years and who won't participate, they will not gain anything except, a few information. They will not have any development in their communication. So just make use of COJ as much as possible. And I can't emphasize on how important it is for you to start speaking Start speaking in the English, regardless of how broken your vocabulary is. Start speaking. Start speaking. The reason why I improved, even though I had a lot of broken vocabulary in my childhood, is because I made use of the opportunity and I started speaking without caring what other people would think. Subhanallah. And other people will really not think that negatively about yourself if you have broken English. All right. It's very common. Don't keep English as this. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give us all the courage, confidence, and canter to stand up straight, with shoulders straight, with your head straight, and say to the non-Islamic or the Islamophobes that you don't care about what they think, that you only care about what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala thinks. آمين يا رب العالمين وآخر دعوانا الحمد لله رب العالمين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته.
Jazakallah khairan kaseera, Brother Wafi Shihad, to enlighten this session with the topic self-confidence. Alhamdulillah. Just to glance, I have glanced at what all he told in the session. When I am not ready to respect myself, who the hell will respect me? Just think positive, stand firm, ask help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Jazakallah khairan kaseera once again. Lastly, I would like to call Huma for conclusion talk. Up to you, sister.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Am I audible and clear? Am I audible and clear?
Yes, alhamdulillah. You are audible.
Okay. Build your self-esteem through your connection to Allah, and Allah will never let you down. This is something we all need to understand as a Muslims. We all need to speak out for ourselves, stand straight and say strongly that I am Muslim and that I only and only believe on what Allah is made lawful for us and what Allah had forbidden for us. This is not what something we have to do. So as a Muslims, we all need to do is just to follow our Allah and our deen, what our Islam says and what our Quran says. This is not something, no need to fit on others' ideal types, because it's never going to happen. Even 99% of the people don't think how we are looking and how we are talking, how we are walking, as we came to know in the sessions. So try to speak in English as much as possible, because it helps us build self-confidence, because this is the era of English, but still there's a difference between self-confidence and egotism, because as I personally believe that the difference between self-confidence and egotism is just like a thread. It just convert to each other by time. So with that, I would like to say Jazakallah khair, Brother Wafi, for this beautiful, beautiful session on self-confidence. May Allah reward you for this. Jazakallah khair, Sister Nida, for moderating. Jazakallah khair, Sister Zeba, for the intro speech. Subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu anna la ilaha illa astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayka. Jazakallah khair. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.